ballpark.
What do you think of leaving us?
You give it something away, and you have a plan.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't see any bags of rotten fruit or anything. Okay, are we live and ready to go? All righty, so welcome, everybody. It is 3:05 on Wednesday, September 28th. This is a regular board meeting of the Waterville Valley Select Board. I am Rich Reeder, the chair. Here with me today is Vice Chair Margaret Turner and Select Board Member Bob Freeze. Let me change the agenda for just a bit. David, can I have you give your report? I understand you have to run out to do something soon, so let's get you
I
in.
appreciated nothing too earth shattering for this week. A&T is going well. Minor repair on the tower truck that we had. The mechanics are here finishing that up today. But other than that, I'll defer to that. I know we've already started looking for quotes on cruisers because it's very pretty far out before we can even consider taking delivery of those.
When is that in the CIP? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's this
Okay.
year.
It is this year. Oh,
Yeah.
joy.
The problem is, well, and Chief has been working with me. We're gonna need to sign a purchase agreement. It has an escape clause.
Mhm.
So that if the funding is not approved, but we need to get it on order. Because the lead time for the vehicles has increased so much.
Yeah, like everything
That-
else, sure.
Yeah,
Did
Okay.
you mean a lease agreement?
it can be a lease. No, well, the lease agreement is just the financing. We need to get the order in to,
I got you.
I guess it's gonna be Dodge is the only one that's available, maybe.
I've got
Or-
some quotes, so the prices are just astronomical.
Okay.
unfortunately.
So we'll decide on, we'll just pick one, we'll get it on order. It'll be in the CIP. And it'll have an escape clause, whatever we sign.
So we voted at town.
And we'll vote it at town meeting. The financing will be the same that it's always been. It's just, we never placed an order
This early.
prior. But we don't have really any choice. It would take us another year to get the vehicle.
And is the money in the budget for this?
Not yet. It will
Oh,
be in the
you're
budget
talking about the
request.
23.
Yeah, the 23
Yes.
budget. Yes, right. Yeah, so
We're just placing the
we're
order
placing the order
Okay.
and,
early
yeah.
with an
Huh?
escape clause. With
What
an
type of
escape
combustion, what type of?
No, it is
I'm
not.
not gonna even. go
It is
there.
not an electric vehicle. It
Okay,
is a-
just asking.
It is a, it
That,
is a
that's not the
regular-
reason why the price is astronomical.
No, every
Price-
price. Well, it's so
Astronomical.
bad at this point that I'm not even sure. Is there a state bid yet?
No.
No, there's
I've
so,
talked to 3 dealerships now, Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, and there's no state bids at this point.
yeah, so.
So you
the
can't
pri-
even get in on
We
it.
can't even get in on a state bid because they haven't done one. And you'll see from the other department heads, that's happening in several different places. So.
Okay,
Anything else? Dave?
Other than that, we got 2 days left on the AFG grant to hear. We get awarded, so. Looks like most of the disbursements for really high ticket items like vehicles, fire trucks. And that's, looks like what most of the awards went to.
And this
across
was
the state.
This
It's
is for
160,000 for the air packs.
gear. Yeah,
So we still got a couple days, but if not, will be, the money that we had set for match will be used to at least get us to outfit engine one, with new packs. And
Right.
then we'll-
I think that was always the
then
plan, right?
they'll-
Just to reduce the,
Yep,
We can't
we'll
get the
reduce it,
grant.
And then we'll do a replacement plan and we can take another.
We'll
crack
put
at
that in the
next year.
CIP.
okay,
But other than that, that's all I have.
coffee with a cop
Next
is
Wednesday.
next Wednesday, 8:30 at
Right at Town Square.
Town.
Jugtown's hosting it, so if it's inclement weather, we'll go inside.
Okay,
Also, they posted information on a flu clinic, happening here, the 11th,
13th.
13th,
Mhm.
13th. Down here, the information's on our site. We'll share it on our page as well.
Great. That it, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. So let me go back to privilege of the floor. I see we have a number of people here. Anyone here for something that's not on the agenda? I'd like to bring it up now. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at approval of the minutes. I see we all had a chance to comment on them. Unless there's any further comments or discussion, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So move.
This is for the 27th July. Have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, shall I move to financial
Yep.
update?
Any questions? We're 75% through the year. Going into the last quarter, we're tracking pretty well. Percentage collected, I think we're doing okay. Brooke, we still have an outstanding. Do we have any outstanding money from boats that might come in? Okay, so I would anticipate that Brooke's numbers are going to be higher than that. So and we're already showing at 64% collected, and that does not include the third quarter water and sewer.
Right,
trash
that's
bills.
that was the question I had.
Yeah, so those are
Right.
still around 50%. We'll be doing that billing in October.
Right,
What about
Yeah, a
parks?
couple of weeks.
Parks?
Yeah, that's the boat.
That's the
he's
boat
talking about.
number. That's the boat number.
Oh, so is that still gonna come in
Recreation
from?
and parks. Yeah.
That's the,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
the one question I did have on the revenue side was on the car registrations.
Mhm.
Do you think we may have overestimated the revenue there?
Sharon wasn't in this afternoon. I will check with her.
Right.
And see what we usually collect.
At this
The-
point, it says
the resort-
66, I think, yeah.
Yeah, the resort re-registers all of the buses during the.
Okay, and that may
fourth
be why it's
quarter.
behind
That's-
the.
There
I
may
see.
be a
Okay,
timing
I
issue.
thought it was something like that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure.
So let me check with her and we'll look at the last quarter for the past couple of years, and we'll give you an update at the next meeting.
That's fine. Any other,
I'm good.
anything else on finance? Okay,
Just a point to note.
Yeah.
about The true electricity costs have not actualized in this budget yet, the increase in electricity costs. So a little concerning with the rates that we're seeing now and even potentially what's being projected into November and December with another rating.
We're looking at another rating. increase.
right. I mean, we haven't seen that reflected in the bills yet, if I can put it
That's
in
correct.
So that's gonna be.
my version of English.
The
Okay,
finance guy over there.
yeah,
Good job.
fair enough. Thank you for the warning.
Yeah,
All right, so on to department head reviews. Chief Payer, since we started going down the route, shall we start with you to add on to what you've already talked about?
So we start reading / recess with the school, this week. We're gonna do it on Thursdays. Unfortunately, a very busy weekend for us on the police side, which is never good. Other than that, coffee with a cop. That's pretty much it.
Without getting into specifics, was there, can you attribute what the increase was to a general incident or event or group in town?
No, just, no specifics, people moving into town, different people staying at different, hotels and stuff like that. They weren't guests, any of these situations, they were all residents, so.
Okay, I guess what I was hinting at was, this isn't hockey related, and we often hear about,
No issue.
we often hear that's, but no issues with hockey, which is
I
good.
got that you were going there.
Yeah, I might as well be plain about it because there are a lot of complaints. I noticed a lot of, yeah,
The higher ones, so the business work for that. too.
good.
On Tuesday. So, but there's a gradual increase with hockey, so that's always a good stuff.
Well, I think it's important, that comment that you made, that they were residents, they
Yeah.
were not guests,
Correct.
so.
New residents?
New-
I'd like to thank Bob yesterday for being a very astute citizen and pointing out a propane leak on the north end of town.
Oh,
Yeah,
Uh,
better to not have things. play.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, his nose.
yeah.
It was legitimate, a tree fell and broke a propane
Oh, wow.
regulator.
regulator on the top of it,
Regulator,
whatever on the
yeah.
tank.
Was a real thing and it was
Yeah.
glad it was noticed, so thank you.
Right,
Poor Joe Lacasse was on the side of the road hiking and he was trying to flag down the fire truck to stop. Almost ran him over.
that's just Joe,
I
right?
realized he didn't have the equipment, so he just dropped it.
Okay, so let me see, Jim, I see you over there. Can I I get your update? Good.
Just normal fall stuff, trying to get ready for the winter.
So Jim, I noticed down in our favorite construction site down there, where they're putting in the water. I mean, everything is pretty muddy now,
Yes,
but I also noticed that there's a big stack of stone that's over in the storage area. Is that going on down on some of that at some time?
we are trying to utilize up as much of that stone. Oh, you mean on the roads?
Yeah,
On the trail?
yeah,
Yes, they put some down today
okay,
on that side, and hopefully when we're done tracking up the other side, we'll dress that up as well.
okay.
do you want to just go to the Water River Crossing?
No,
Or do you wanna do that
I'd
separately?
rather do
Okay.
that separately.
Okay,
Mhm.
very good. Anything else? Just getting
You
ready for
found-
winter.
You found a way around the car-sized stone that you found between pump number 2 and the treatment
I
building?
believe we have.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about
Mhm.
during the agenda.
Okay, I get you. All righty, see, who am I missing here? Let me,
Steve,
oh, actually, sorry, here we go.
how could
This-
you miss Dylan?
There we are. Dylan, how are you?
Well,
Anything, what would you like to tell us today?
everything's going well operations wise. Unfortunately, one of our operators, Brad Talent, his last day will be Friday.
Mhm.
We'll miss him. And in terms of recruiting, we've had a couple interviews. I think that's been extra promising. So only a few applicants, so it's not a whole lot of interest. Part of the issue again is relocating to the area.
Is that the primary reason we're having difficulty is
Yeah,
relocation?
All of our applicants have been at the minimum over an hour and a half away, so they had to relocate to the area.
We have a 45-minute recall requirement
Right,
in the job.
so they have to be, right, I get it.
You tell them it's nice, right?
We do. We tell them it's a great place to work. Yeah,
But obviously, we don't offer any assistance in relocation to,
well, that's a
That's a
negotiable
negotiate.
thing.
okay, I wondered about that.
Yes,
It's
So,
the
it's
housing costs.
the housing costs and availability of housing.
Okay,
With
well,
interest rates being where they are, it's
Right.
for someone to buy a house right now and move their families, it's cost prohibitive for what the salary range.
well, I was gonna say that directly speaks to the salary ranges we're talking.
Exactly, yeah. So,
Okay.
it limits our pool to people that are essentially already living here for at least one of the jobs. So,
Okay,
other than that, we have the 60% design that should be coming out the week of October 10th. So looking forward to that.
That's the date, October 10th, we're supposed to get it.
That's
Oh, the
10th.
week of the 10th.
So the 10th is what? Is that?
It's Monday.
Columbus Day.
Yeah, that's Columbus Day.
So it won't be on the 10th.
But that
It'll
week.
be that week.
right,
And,
all right. Big week.
yeah. So that's all I got for you.
Okay, any questions?
No.
No. Good. Okay, Brooke, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say that it doesn't look like the last big payment for waterfront is included in the September. So it doesn't look like it's in here, so.
No,
just-
right.
I think about, but we've already taken it in, but it's
Okay.
not in this report.
All right,
It's not 13,000, that should be showing there.
for parks. 15,000.
It is? Okay. Well, then I guess I need to take a closer look at that.
We, just that on that, Brooke, we can adjust those revenue numbers one more time at tax rate setting.
Right,
So if we find that we need to make a change like the motor vehicles or the parks.
want to get those
we'll-
into the,
We can put them in before the tax rate is determined.
On the expense side as well.
No, the expense side is frozen,
whatever it is.
but the revenue you still have.
And then every little bit will help.
Yep.
Okay,
So we are all set for the fall foliage foot race. That's a week
Mhm.
from this Sunday. Right now, we're working on gathering volunteers and getting more people to sign up. This race infamously has people that sign up at the last minute. We have our permit because this year we're bringing back the 10-mile trail race portion. And we have to have a permit from the Forest Service to do that. We have that in hand. So we are just hoping for great weather and more turnout. The ducks at the pond are causing some problems. The levels of E. coli are increasing when they should be decreasing. And so I would just like to put out a PSA to not feed the ducks and not encourage them. In general, we should not be feeding the ducks. So what I'm going to do, Dylan's been the one kind of helping me with this, but I guess there's some like coyote shadow signs that move that actually will, scare away the ducks. So we are going to try that. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, the ducks.
All
like,
ducks?
Well, Dylan's experience was he walked up there with Rich and all the ducks kind of flocked to him and.
yeah, I've been told people are feeding them, tourists are feeding them.
And they all came right up to their feet.
Yeah.
So it was a lot.
Yeah, visitors are feeding them.
So
That's,
maybe we should consider putting signs out that say that.
I think that would probably be a good idea. Yeah.
So anyhow, that is happening.
On that note, I still think they can come to bears, so I don't know if the signs are.
Yeah, no, that's a perennial, right?
Yeah. so-
You're a local boy, you know that, right? It's a perennial. Look, there's a bear. Let's go.
Did
Our
the,
pet bears.
did the turtle eggs hatch?
There's no way for us to know that, because once they hatch, they just fall away. So there's no way for us to know that, but we are getting ready to take the signs down because the incubation period, all of that is over, and we're trying to give it a couple of weeks of buffer.
But there are no
And
eggs
take
there.
that down. Yeah.
No
Well,
eggs there anymore.
No one's dug it yet. We haven't
Oh,
dug it out yet
oh.
because we haven't wanted to disturb it.
Right.
So we had to wait for that period of time, whatever it was, I can't remember, but I think it was about, I don't know, 2 months or something. We'll have to go back and look. And then we'll get rid of those signs and dig and see. Hopefully no one else has done that. The siding project, I think will really be done. Because it's looking great today. They brought like 4 extra people and they're putting the siding right on the wall, so.
Yeah, they just
Try
want
to get them out of Leah's
On the
way.
entranceway. Yeah, I know. They're totally, they
Good.
clear space, but it looks really good and it's super exciting for it to be done.
Is that the last major
Part of the building,
part? Well, yeah, the construction that's going on that's been impacting you.
yes, so they had.
Everything else has been done, right? The
Yeah, it was
doors,
just the entries. They were,
right?
waiting on some additional siding to do, and I think it's just about done,
Good,
so really that's good.
excellent.
And then the shed, I think did Mark share?
No, I have it right here.
We were able to get, we were able to tweak the shed and get a design for our needs. And, choose the paint color and, Mark has the quote for that. I think it came out to 13,857. And that would be, I think, they said that it can be
Big
made in
rectangle.
just a couple of days, but the delivery won't be until the end of October.
So we're looking at the bottom one on the last page, the tan and green.
The one that looks like the Golden Eagle.
That's 2 copies there.
Oh.
So is that gonna impact the boat storage until the end of October?
No, it'll be fine. I mean, we'll have to just leave the boats where they are until then. Usually we take them off a week after the fall foliage foot race, after we close down boats, but we're just gonna have to leave them there until.
But believe me, the savings in work
Oh,
time
yeah,
is gonna
it's
be
huge.
huge. So,
So the double door is how you bring them in?
Yes,
the double doors will be towards Valley Road and the porch will be towards the dam. you know, how it's oriented parallel to the beach,
Right.
to the
You're
waterfront.
gonna have to make racks inside or something.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to
yeah.
do some construction after.
Yeah, very little. We're gonna be putting some of the, all the single packs, if you have the most on end on one side, and then the other side will have racks, and then once we don't need to walk around there, we're gonna shove in the pedal boats, which are, you know, take up the most room, but they go on end down the middle.
What about electricity?
We don't need any.
Don't need-
Is it gonna be dark in there?
Oh, for working in there?
Yeah, yeah.
No, because I think when we're coming in and out of there, we're gonna have the doors open during the summer. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. well,
Yeah. We don't have any plans for electricity. Maybe there's an opportunity to do solar of some sort, or I don't know, but we don't have any plans for that right now.
Or you could get those battery operated lights. that
Right,
You
yeah.
just stick on the edge.
Yeah.
Activate
We'll
when
see.
there's
Yeah, there's
movement.
only 2 windows on that front side. And then on the, or excuse me, on the, the side that faces the water, and then the front side.
The porch, let's
Mhm.
call it the porch.
Yeah. the porch.
There's not gonna be any real reason to go in there in the winter, right? And other than to check on.
Yeah.
Get the squirrels.
We're not,
Get the
Yes, the
squirrels
squirrels
out.
out.
Are they gonna get in?
Yeah,
They always get in, right?
well, they could get in they're gonna, it's not gonna be any different than being under the gazebo, so probably better
Yeah.
than that setup.
snakes too.
And snakes.
They're in our other stuff.
Okay.
I don't care, but the CRI of Boston houses hundreds of boats and various sheds and everything. Their walls are like 80%, about 20% are probably plexi or something
Mm.
to allow for some lighting.
One of the options, as we were looking at these shed designs, was a dormer, which was really nice. It would let in that light, but we were only allowed to get 7-foot walls with that dormer. And so we wanted to offer as much height as we could, so we chose not to go with the dormer and to add another 8-foot wall. And that's kind of the priority.
Mhm.
Good.
So if you're okay with it, I would like to order it today, just so that we can try to get it as soon as possible.
Do you need a vote on that?
Yeah,
or-
if you could, just to use the 15,000.
Did we already do that? Did we already vote on that?
Yeah, actually, it
We
was,
did.
it was
I
a
don't remember.
recorded
We
meeting.
did
You
vote?
voted.
We did vote
Yes,
on.
All
you
right.
did.
Yeah.
Yes, and then the remaining.
Yeah.
Money will be used to outfit the shed with all the.
The other
storage needs and-
1,300.
The storage needs and whatnot. Great. That is all I have, I believe.
It sits on cinder blocks or what?
Mhm.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Brooke.
Sure.
The school is now beautiful. What about this?
The sign at the road, they're actually replacing it entirely. They've already put in a design and it's just taking a little while.
It's on order.
It's
Yeah.
on order. So it's gonna look great, and we requested it be lifted a little bit, so, because you know how it's kind of a dip right there, so it'll look new and be able to read it.
All right. Steve, anything on administrative side?
Yeah, briefly, Mark had mentioned that the water and sewer bills will be coming out in a couple of weeks, and there had been discussion previously about an insert to go along with this quarter's water and sewer bill. And I'm just looking for some guidance on whether or not you'd like us to move forward with that insert or something else.
There had been some comments about that when we were talking.
Right, that we
was
were
the
gonna put in, we were
recycling.
gonna put a insert in the recycling.
Right,
All right, well, we could, won't hold up the meeting, but we could read it and then
Yeah.
if we have any comments, we can get
Yeah,
back to you
that'll be
on
good.
it. Is that
Perfect.
A
okay?
couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay,
You got a comment? Go for it.
well, it's a comment I already made. They still have Hannaford Supermarket as somehow being our partner in recycling.
yeah, yes, those are the sorts of things we want to address.
And they are, just to make it clear, they are not. They do have 3 very small bins outside their doors in case people are coming in and going out, and want to dispose of something that can be recycled, but they are not meant to be the place where you take all of your recyclables of that type and leave them. We don't have any agreement with Hannaford. I'll look at the rest of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that one
Thank you.
jumped out.
Stumped out.
Yep.
Very good. All right, anything else, Steve?
No,
There's the, oh, sorry about that. That was those are the bins.
Oh, I got the bins too.
Okay.
You took pictures of the bins as well.
Sure.
We all took pictures of the
Okay,
bins.
we know.
Yeah, the ones right outside the front door. Yeah, they had the little,
There they
the
are.
little slots
They're not meant to be
to bring in to,
for everybody in Waterville Valley to bring their paper, aluminum, and whatever. And we have no agreement with Hanford.
all right, that was it, you said, Steve? Okay, I think we hit all the department heads. Calendar review, our next select board meeting is the 12th, October 12th at 3 p.m. Planning board regular meeting, October 13th at 8 a.m. And we need to talk about setting up a strategic planning meeting. At some point, we can do that in
can.
non-public, I
Yeah.
think. Since it's related, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
We go to the race center.
Okay, yep. So let's go ahead and move on to new business and the Raise Center. So Leah, hello.
I provided them with your letter and the financial report and the budget report that you had sent us.
Okay, great. I do have a couple printouts of the letter. So I appreciate you all taking time to check in on the status of both the Cultural Arts Center and the Curious Cottage Preschool. If you have any specific questions, that's great. My intention here is to share with the town. I didn't go into the overall value of what it means to have a hub for educational services outside of primary education, but as the Ray Center exists, it has served the community in various ways. Currently, it is at a position where it's unable to continue a lot of its primary functions. And as the town has changed, that's what the Ray Center has done. It's reflected what the town and what the community wants. So we're in the works of making sure that we do that. And in order to do that, we will need to look at our structure, and I put forth to the town an opportunity to support it in an additional financial way. That way we can continue to provide the town with a cultural arts center, and in the last 2 years, we're starting the second year, an early childhood education place. And if you would like me to add the value of what a cultural arts center does for the community, what early childhood education provides for both individual students and families, and what it means to have in the town, I can. But really, you know, as you saw in the letter and in the supporting documents, we need to be part of the town financially as well. So that's.
Okay, so just I'll just summarize what was given to the select board, and then we could discuss it. Basically, the Ray Center, the Ray Cultural Center is asking that we increase the yearly stipend in our operating budget from 25,000 to 65,000.
Correct.
And there's various reasons for that, and you've given us a breakdown of the programs and what they cost and what revenues you've collected, and what you see going forward with regard to the preschool and the number of students you need to make that a going concern, et cetera, et cetera. And the other part of this is that you've pretty much burned through your reserves, or are just about coming to the end of what we would call fund balance or reserve. So without this extra town support, there is a very important question about what the Ray Center, will the Ray Cultural Center be able to survive? Right, if that can put it as the bottom line. So that's what you presented to the board, and Margaret or Bob, any discussion you'd like to have on this? At this time?
I had a question on the 15,000 on the New Hampshire Music Festival. So is that
So what that ended up being, that's a little bit of an accounting, oddity. Really what it is we, there were some fantastic donors to a New Hampshire Music Festival event, several years ago that wasn't able to go forth, and donors were given the opportunity to keep their funds in with the Ray Center in order to provide New Hampshire Music Festival funding prolonged, not just for one event, or have their donations returned. So the donations that were held are in a reserve fund for New Hampshire Music Festival events. And we had 3 New Hampshire Music Festival events this last year. And so those funds went towards providing those.
so how much was spent
So
this
that-
year on? New
It's a
Hampshire?
wash.
It is a wash. So the music festival is paid and the events are provided either free or by donation for people who attend them. If you look at what actually was paid for, it was less than 15,000, but those were the costs that were associated with tent rental, with bringing in, and those funds were, I think. I would love to review that a little bit on more detail. But that pays for each event, ranges between $25 and $4,500 for the New Hampshire Music Festival.
Well, there's an expense line for the music festival, so
Pardon me?
there's an expense line also for the music festival, and they offset. There's an escrow account that pays for the music festival events.
And I'm not sure if you have the one, if the financial you have was the one from the first
Right here, Bob.
email I sent Mark, or the.
So, no, I've got it. It's right here. So it balances
Okay.
the 15 and the 15. I got it.
It looks to me like even if you look going forward at the bottom line, even with an additional $40,000, you don't make it.
There are other pieces that need to happen as well. And that's what the, with regard to the budget, looking at increasing the preschool enrollment, which can only happen if we continue to operate. We currently have 6 students and we have capacity of 12. And Mark, again, do you have the report? Does the board have the report from just yesterday or the first?
Yeah, yes, the one you just, the updated one.
Okay, so that does include what it looks like with various
Numbers of
Enrollment.
children.
numbers of children. And part of what you see on there is currently, I am a full-time teacher in the program. And for us to sustain both the Ray Center and the preschool, some changes need to happen with regard to that.
But I think what Bob's asking is right now under the 23 and 24 column, the negative balance at the end of the year is larger than the $40,000
Right.
additional.
Right.
How do you make up the other $12,000?
So part of that will be needs that there are funds available as far as grant, you know, and what I said in there is that we have a significant funding change over, you know, the last several years. There have been a number of reasons why. And so in order to continue, we need to have assistance with obtaining those funds, whether it's through increased enrollment, which isn't, you know, a finger snap, it's a process. And changes to certain operational pieces. So I think when we move forward, that's something that we have to adjust, whether it means offering certain programs or if it means laying out our programs that appeal to people and that people pay for. We have several upcoming fundraisers that we have begun as annual fundraisers, and the big fundraising pieces are not in that budget. So we would need to make sure that as part of the job of a nonprofit organization involves fundraising.
So you would add to the total revenue through those fundraisers. Okay. I think it'll be important if we move this forward to town meeting, that you have a very developed plan for how to meet that, because I think the first reactions would be the same one you just had about, well, you're still short. What's the plan for making that up?
The other one that jumped out at me was the 12,000 for the community garden. That sounds like a lot of money for something that people come and plant themselves, don't they?
Yeah, so that was actually a question of the board. We talked a little bit about that. That is, right now, we don't spend $12,000 on the garden. That projected with our cost there, that includes, when you break it down in the actual budget, there's labor that is not shown up for people coming in and doing events. So we provide quite a bit of labor, but there are pieces of that garden that has been growing. And so when we look at putting in pollinator gardens, when we look at building additional community beds, we have several large projects in order to increase the vitality of that space and make it more accessible. So that's what that.
So is that an annual expense?
That would not be an annual expense. That would be the upcoming for the 23, probably 24, but definitely the 23 if we choose to do that.
But if you put in more beds, you're not increasing your program fees at all. Would that be an area that might go up? Because there are additional beds that are being rented?
Yes, but currently we don't charge enough for those beds to make that a huge offset.
No, I'm not talking about offsetting it. I'm talking about, it's just not reflected in the current revenue.
Correct.
Okay. So that's an
That
example of where you
That's
need to
correct.
detail that out.
I
Right.
think you should also detail this page that says core programming financials. It doesn't say what period that is for. Is that for 2023 or 2022 or
2023. I'm pretty sure.
2022?
I'm 22.
2022.
Yeah.
Leah, I had a question, and you know, I'm a longtime supporter of the Ray Center, and I will continue to be. The thing that has been very disappointing to me over the years is the lack of expansion and membership with all of the things that you do for this community and that for people participate in. To have only $1,000 or $2,000 coming in total for membership seems really low.
So our membership is very low and it has only decreased. And I think that is something, I know the board has talked about that a lot in the last couple of years, because of what programs we have offered. People need to feel a certain value for their memberships. And the Ray Center has been, it has done a lot in the community. It's really changed what it has done. And so if we look at building our membership, we need to be offering things that people put value to. So donating and supporting the programs, what has made more sense financially in the last few years, the last 2 years, not so much, but it's sponsoring programs. So that worked for people more, so that if we had the membership just has not been something that has been appealing to the community, to current residents.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is very interesting, Margaret. I agree 100%. And so I think that part of what we're doing and what our goal is with both the preschool and with doing annual valley-wide events, which this last year we did 3 that in 2022 already, that really brought in a lot of community energy. And so as that happens and people understand that the Ray Center is here, then it should involve more people. And really, again, this, the preschool piece is a fantastic, understandable part of what the Ray Center can do within the valley.
Should that be supported by the school budget as opposed to by the town budget?
So I think, you know, the preschool is an interesting thing. At this point, it's a private organization. At some point probably in the near future, there will be a mandate to have communities offer preschools. I think that however we decide that the preschool should be in the valley, I think we're all open to.
But in
working
terms of
as-
funding it, I mean, the funding of preschool sounds, it just strikes me that you ought to be talking to the school board as opposed to the town. That's just, I
But the
mean, it's an
preschool,
educational.
the preschool is basically self-funding, right? Don't the
No,
parents
it
pay
wasn't.
the cost?
No,
No, yeah, you gotta get up to around 11 students, right?
Right,
Those are
and genuinely for our, and this is a conversation with current parents, we're looking at building a scholarship fund. But for our ratio, it's so fantastic, the amount of time and attention these children receive with the teacher. It's, the reality is our tuition rate needs to be adjusted to that, and the community members understand that, so that can help. But until we get a higher level of enrollment in order to really be truly self-sufficient, we aren't, again, until we get that 10 to 12.
That's roughly the break even point on the preschool.
Yeah, at 12, there's a revenue, but again, at 12, you know, as you increase students, you need more, you know, you need additional services, although staffing, to a certain extent, at 4, you need essentially the same
Same
staff
as-
as you need at 9.
Right.
So there's some play there.
Have you talked to the school board at all about these issues?
No, so a couple of years ago, I think a lot of you may have been part of a conversation that went on with the town and with the school board. And at that time, the school was looking to add a preschool for other reasons than the reasons that we started, which was to be a draw and a fee for the school. And now we have a community that can offer care for families with young children. And so I think that I would love to talk with the school board about that. They know that we exist. There hasn't been any, you know, we're in communication, but not with regards to being part of the school or funded by the school, though they supported a project in the garden a couple years ago, and they helped with the pavilion. So there are pieces there.
So it is tuition based
Correct.
and you could raise the tuition?
Well,
for
that's
these
what I was saying.
affluent people.
It
that live in
It
this community?
can, but the community also has people who, you know, they are working parents, and there are people who could say, absolutely, you know, in any community.
No, I just, yeah,
But
I'm-
yes,
Do other jurisdictions in
Yes.
Plymouth and such
Yeah, that's a sign.
tax generated preschool programs, or are they all
always thinking
private?
like, sorry, they are all private that I am aware
So then it's not like you're doing something different.
of, correct,
If they wanted to go to a preschool in Plymouth or Campton or whatever, they pay a tuition as well.
correct.
Full time.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
not,
and, you know, the tuition will increase. I couldn't say tomorrow that I can double it, because that would be what it would take, you know, and that's not what we want to do necessarily. We have a really great opportunity to offer this. And we also, one of the pieces that we're doing is, it is for the town of Waterville Valley. We have enough enrollment space, but as we are able to bring in community members and employee, we're spending a fair amount of time in discussion with the town employers, how to have their employees have a benefited part of, you know, they can.
So it's sort of part of their benefit package that they may offer to prospective employees.
And they can put it, now a organization or business can say, and there is early childhood education or care, you know, and in the valley where there wasn't really previously, or not recently. So And again, then as we draw from extended communities, then we're increasing the interaction.
I'll just speak about the early childhood education. You've all probably heard me say, when I got my current job in 2018, I had to choose not to live in Waterville Valley, although the before times there were houses for sale and I could have afforded them. That was then, but I couldn't live here because the closest early childhood education was, at that point, the only place I could get a spot for my kids was in Meredith, which was truly prohibitive. So that dictated where my family chose to live, even though I do have a great job in Waterville Valley. And this summer, I will also say that with really little kids, my son did summer camps at the Ray Center because what Leah's been offering is unique.
Well, that's been a tremendous success, right? It's even a revenue generator from the numbers
Yeah,
I've seen,
yeah, and it can certainly increase,
but not a large revenue generator.
not $100,000.
No,
Please God, no.
no, well, not even a tenth of that from your numbers. Yes,
Can I interject a little bit?
sure.
Because it's both a fiscal issue and a philosophical issue. And the towns have a lot of difficulty the Ray Center reasons because of primarily the ages of the 3-4-year-olds. They
Mhm.
don't fit in the rec functionally, they don't fit in the school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just not the preschool, it's the whole concept of the use of this facility. And there's always, I think it needs to be sorted out, and we have some time over the concept of the town, the school, the recreation department, the Ray Center. How does it all fit together? Who can do what? Who can do what? The best way of doing things, what has to be folded in or folded out, et cetera. It sort of needs to be a clarity of structure. And then you have the issue of the financial matters. Now, at some point, it's probably going to wind up, the town will have preschool in some form or another. My understanding, and it precedes me, is the Ray Center in its initial section, the conversation was, well, do we make it a town thing? Do we not make it a town thing? The issues of employment. Leah's not an employee of the town. If you fold in things you make the preschool a school committee thing, well, they're employees now. Do you want them to be employees? Do you want it outside? Do you want it inside? It's a very complex issue. So I don't think it should be looked at just in the context of the dollars and cents. Now, the way this was structured out, any supplement, okay, we won't see the money until July of 23. Okay, but we sort of need to know about where we are and where it's going. At some point, the 23-24 school year, we have to make a decision on. Backing up a little bit, about 3 years ago, when the concept of the preschool came up, it was in response to people asking for it, really. And initially, and then we decided at that time, we said, well, we'll try it. We'll give it a little time. If it works, wonderful. And if it doesn't work, well, we tried. Last year, there were 9 students, roughly break even. This year, currently, there are 6. Looking forward to the 23-24 year, what we know of is 6 at the moment, and that's way out. How it evolves with scholarship, it's unknown. So
Why do you think it's so low, given the need?
I would say that,
maybe it chases all the
yeah,
leads,
so, we're a small community. To the families that were there last year, there were 7 families that we served. You know, one of the families had 2 children in the program. So I can say for those 7 families, it was pretty special and pretty important. I think, as you all know,
talk to people in Plymouth, Waterville's a haul. The people who are moving into this area now are coming from a different frame of mind. There are more people who, you know, it was easy for me to travel 15-20 minutes down the road for my childcare because it was on the way to something. So as I think we have a big room for growth, and it's getting people to know that we're here, and they won't know if we don't stay open. So, you know, I think that we don't need 100 children. We're talking, you know, 12 children. It's not a huge number. So.
But you don't think, it's not the tuition, it's not.
No, our
it-
tuition
okay.
is, it's in line with everyone else's in the area for, but it's what I paid when my child was 2, just so that you know. It has also not increased in a way that makes sense. My child was only 12. So increasing our tuition is going to happen. I just didn't want to do it initially on the second year. I think that it will increase. Again, we have 3 on our wait list for next year. We have 3 currently attending who will, unless you never know until they're in your state. But we can see already 6 for next fall, and that's not with anyone new. It takes one family working in the mountain with 2 kids. And the tough thing is about preschool, so we're talking 2 years, maybe 3. So it's a constant of, you know.
I can speak for, like, I looked into it with my kids, they're 6 and 3 now. The hard part for me was the tuition after. I really thought about the preschool program. They are competitive with what I'm doing for daycare now, but my problem is the continuity of going then from preschool into kindergarten. So the tuition thing to kindergarten for me, from outside looking in, was my hiccup or hang up, was that, you know, that tuition. So that might be a hard part from pulling people from outside is, okay, can I afford one, and is my kid gonna continue in that same school or same environment? So
I mean, as far
There's a
as
hard
whether
part.
they tuition into
Yeah.
I would anticipate the students who are attending for 1 or 2 years from Campton will go to Campton.
So the kids that are in school, in the preschool now, are they all from Waterville?
Currently it's 4 in and 2 out. Valley. But they're employees at the Valley.
It does seem to me, I think Bob made a very valid point that there has to be some sort of discussion with the school board about this, as to how we, and to support the point that was made about a community-wide effort here to support the race center, if that's the direction we want to go to, because the conversation seems to be revolving around the preschool primarily, and the summer camp, right? I mean, those are the 2 big,
The early childhood piece.
right, the 2 big parts of what the race center does.
Those are 2 big parts. There are other really important pieces
Mhm.
that the Race Center does as well. And part of that funding, and why we need funding, is to continue those programs, and also to have the staffing to pursue the fundraising. And to,
Is there much involvement with Curious George these days, or that it's just really the race center now?
it's really the Race Center.
There's really no Curious George involvement.
Unless you talk to my son.
Yeah. So are you looking
Yeah.
for a decision by a particular time, or a support from the board to put it in the operating budget, or as a warrant article, or what's your general outlook here?
Well, as Al was saying, you know, we need knowing sooner so that we can make plans makes the most sense. Otherwise, we, you know, I would imagine that it would be coming up in town meeting, if a decision.
Right.
That would be when.
Well, it would either be an operating budget or a separate warrant article, but this is asking it to be included as part of the operating
Well, we
budget,
already have a
25,000, so the plus up,
So the way you've handled it
right,
in other cases has been the 25,000 stays in the operating budget, the balance gets requested
as a
as a
separate,
separate warrant article. don't have to do it that way.
Right.
That's the way you've done
The
it. in the
25 is basically maintenance and
Well, but even that, I mean, as they point out in the letter, that number has been 25,000
Right.
I
since.
thought I thought Leah came in for a request for an increase about a year ago.
It was approved
It
2
was-
years ago, but
It was the capital amount
Oh, okay.
that we
The building.
increased. So the budget, the building maintenance
Right.
piece was what was increased.
So how do you financially get through this year? Without, up until town meeting, it looks to me like there's not enough money to get through this year.
Yeah, we'll make it through the town meeting period. And then there will be an answer, a definitive answer of how much money is coming from the town. And then, but the plan that Alan's talking about is the starting in September of next year.
Yeah, so
That's
Right.
what we need, so that we know whether or not we can retain staff and have staffing there for the continuation.
timing and strategically.
Yeah.
This is the way I
Mhm.
kind of view it. That. First of all, I guess the concept is the board would recommend what the ultimate proposal is. It goes in March for approval. So once it's approved, we know that in July there will be X dollars. Okay, and we can manage that way. My preference, more broadly, would be this. This is the second year of the preschool. Next year would be the third year of this preschool. It is next to impossible to predict for a variety of reasons, the number of students we would have, what the new construction may or may not mean. And as Leah mentioned, you basically only get 1 or 2 years. This is not an 8th grade, 8 years of schooling. So you have this variable, but more broadly, from my mind, I think the original concept was to give it a chance, we'll be back next year, do the third year, get a better sense of what can and cannot be done. And then if it becomes undesirable functionally or financially, at least you have time to end it logically. That would be my
Okay.
sense relative to school, but that is only one element of the overall concept of the race.
The racing.
yeah, I have another thing to suggest to you strategically. I know your board is going to request that a certain amount be put in the warrant article. I would put that amount in the warrant article and I would work like heck between now and the time of town meeting to get some of those sponsorships, and whether it's memberships or sponsorships or grants or that kind of thing, get them lined up and walk into town meeting and reduce the amount that you're asking for. Because I think what a lot of people in town who don't know all the things you do or don't participate in that kind of thing is, in their heads, they're paying for a preschool or they're paying for a
Mhm.
summer camp and they don't have kids. So why should we do that? And they don't understand all the good work that you're doing. So, again, from a strategic perspective, that's what you're going to be up against. And if you can walk into town meeting and say, look, over the last 6 months, we've had these efforts and we've managed to find this much more in revenues, so we're going to reduce our ask. I think that would be a really good thing to look at.
But it's likely to be 2 things. A minimal amount of money compared to the needs. And having done that, it leaves us with the same ending balance, which is very difficult to cope with because perilous at some point. So you can reduce the 40 to 35. At the end of the day, we're at the same place.
Or maybe you can reduce the 40 to 25. I don't know the answer because, even as a supporter, again, of the Ray Center, I have not seen, the request the enthusiasm, the emphasis on how do we raise money through other means. And I think if I have not seen it as somebody who's been supporting the Ray Center for a long time, what about all those people out there who don't know anything about what you're doing? And I don't know that it's a letter. I don't know whether it's probably more of a face-to-face event, a face-to-face ask. Do the same thing that other nonprofit organizations do. They basically start with a list of people and say, we're going to go after these folks for X $1,000. We're going to go after these folks for a few hundred, and do it and do the ask. And I know you're resource limited. I know you don't have a lot of people to do this kind of thing. I mean, I know Leah is busy, but you've got a board. And the board could be doing some of those kind of things.
And I think there are organizations in town. I mean, I do think you need to explore the school community, the PTO, the adaptive folks. I mean, there are ways, the foundation. There are other organizations that can be helpful here. Any further?
That's an interesting concept. I have a different theory about how the place should operate broadly, but to go to any one of the other nonprofits and say, we want a few $1,000s from them. I mean, we're competing with the system. They don't have them. How many of them have the resources? We do get some funding from the
Foundation.
From the foundation.
But
For
others.
specific events,
Huh?
for specific events or.
Wow.
Whatever it is, it's complicated and difficult.
I want to see you stay. I don't want to see you go out of
I
business.
know.
Yeah.
May I also point out that this is a long running conversation.
Mhm.
This is not the first time this has happened. So one of the board members at one point lent $50,000 to carry the place, which has not been repaid because they don't facilities repaying the money. Some of our go-to people have died or left the valley. And we have not found the people to replace the go-to people.
I would also, just as a final comment, note the important point you do make is that this hasn't changed. The $25,000 stipend hasn't changed for quite some time. And I think inflation is over that time has been 47%. And we've not indexed, if you would, the town's contribution to inflation. So that's something to consider as well, in terms of what the town can do in its operating budget, or should do. Okay, anybody else have any comments? All right, thank you. Thank you, no problem. Okay, do you want to go up to the water,
Yep.
water pollution control revolving loan agreement approval?
Yep. That's a mouthful. So this is the paperwork that we started talking about a few meetings ago. It's a $4 million loan agreement with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. It involves the forgiveness of $80,000 out of that 4 million because of the 2% state forgiveness. There was a question when I first brought it to you about the $800,000 that we were checking on.
Right.
There is a separate agreement for the $800,000, so that money is there. So it's a total of $880,000 towards this 4 million that will be grants or loan forgiveness for us. So we're at 22% right now out of this $4 million. That does not mean that we'll stay at that level or that we won't go up when we have the rest of the money that we do in March. I don't know what those percentages will be. Right now, it looks like it'll be around 20%. But we'll get more information as we get closer to town meeting on that.
And just to clarify for everybody on the audience, this is on the $5 million that was approved at town meeting a couple of years ago.
Correct. We borrowed $1 million on our own,
Mhm.
as the town did. So that we could use that money for other purposes. Which, I mean.
Related to the project.
Related to the project.
Right,
For
1 million of that 5,
For getting
right,
current operations to get to the new plant.
right.
That was part of the authorization in the original $5 million
Right.
bond.
Right,
Authorization.
so when these opportunities came along, they were only applicable to what we had not borrowed already.
Correct.
Right,
That's why
The
it's
4.
not 5 million.
the 4
That's
million,
right.
right.
Mhm.
Okay, so do you have something for?
Well,
for us
no,
to sign at this point, or-
no, what I need is an approval
Okay,
of 2 things, an approval of this agreement at the stated interest rate of 2.536% interest for a term of 20 years. It will begin when the project is completed.
27.
In 2027, it would be the first year of repayment. And then a 20-year note from that period. And then to authorize me to complete the paperwork related to this agreement.
It's a
So there's
mouthful.
nothing for you to, there's nothing for
Sign,
you
right.
to sign
Sign.
as a board.
right,
It's to just accept the terms and authorize us to complete
So
the.
do we pay, in the meantime, we pay 1% on the.
There's a construction, yes, we will be responsible for 1%
So that's
of
all,
whatever we borrow.
so that's all up until 2027.
Up until 2027, and that'll get rolled into the final loan amount. We don't have to budget it.
And the
in
2027 can slip as well. It
Well,
could be 10 years from now.
only if, no, it can't.
That's the way I read it.
Well, in here it can,
Yeah,
but because of our permit,
right.
it will be 2027. Or we'll be paying EPA a lot of money.
on top of.
Yes, on top of this.
Are we locked into 2.5
For this $4 million, we are.
for 20 years?
For actually 25 years,
Excellent.
because it doesn't start until 27. yeah.
What will that do to our semi-annual tax bill?
Have no idea. I can, we're gonna project those at town meeting time when we have the rest of the cost of the project. I can't tell you specifically today what that
When's
will
the
be.
town meeting?
The town meeting's in March, second Tuesday of March. Put it on your calendar. Big red circle. That's the way it is on my calendar.
That's when you authorize us to
That's
spend a
when
lot
you
of money.
authorize us to,
And if
do
you're
the
really
rest of it.
interested, you can come and sit in all our budget meetings as
Yeah.
well.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what does the motion have to be?
The motion
again?
has to be to approve the agreement as presented at the stated interest rate, 2.536. For a period of 20 years. To begin 2027.
Okay, I will make that exact motion. Do I have,
And to authorize me to sign.
and to
it.
authorize the town manager to sign it?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye,
Thank you.
all right. Did we by any chance get the info back from DRA?
No,
No, so we're just gonna bypass the tax ratings
that's correct.
update, but we need to talk about when still, right?
Yes, so now, I mean, I don't know when we are going to get it. You're gonna be back,
Well, I'm not leaving now till Friday morning.
okay, so
So-
maybe tomorrow if we get it, I can call you and we can have a quick meeting to set that rate. Are you available tomorrow?
I think the morning I'll be out, but in the afternoon I'll be available.
Okay,
Let me
so-
just double check.
Again, I don't know if we will get it tomorrow or
Right.
not. But there's an
Yeah,
outside.
later in
chance.
the afternoon, I'll We had a doctor's appointment. in the
Okay,
morning.
so in the afternoon tomorrow,
Margaret
or
and I have golf later in the afternoon.
you have,
Yes, we
What,
can.
what time do you
I
guys
have
start?
golf early, later.
Oh.
yeah.
okay.
Full.
What time we leave on
Then
Friday?
you're gone until,
We can meet on the third green,
you're gone until when?
the following Friday.
The following Friday. Okay,
Can you call in?
Yeah, sure. Might
Okay.
be speaking French.
May we?
Margaret will interpret for us. Okay, I would prefer if we could have you call in. That would be awesome, because waiting on, if we didn't do it until the following Friday, then we couldn't send it back to DRA and get the final approval back until the following week. So I'd like to try to do it
So
next week.
If it's not tomorrow, you just send me a text
Okay.
or something or whatever.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
All right. Trail initiative.
Okay, so the trail initiative, thank you, Brooke, for hanging in there. Brooke and Tyler and I have been working with Marvin Weinberger on trying to continue to move forward the improving the marketing and just the general exposure of the trail system to the general public. Marvin's been doing a great job of making us do this, whether we wanted to or not. By just, constantly talking to people. He's reached out to a lot of different organizations. I think we have about 20 different letters of support by now.
Some of them heavyweights.
Some of them are heavyweights,
Absolutely.
all trails, the
Appalachian
Appalachian Trail Mountain
Club.
Club. The senators have said that if there is a specific project that they are willing to support, they haven't provided a letter yet, but
Who's
they
that?
have, both of our
Senators.
senators
Mhm.
offices have said that when we have a specific project, they will.
Mhm.
He's been working with the state tourism folks, the state outdoor rec people.
Is he a local
He-
guy? I don't-
Marvin is
I've
a
never heard of him.
property owner,
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
and he has been for 20 years, 30 years, yeah.
His kids went to our summer camp.
Yep, he actually worked with Steve on a lot of the information. We're trying to use the guidebook info as much as possible. The bottom line is, we would like Marvin to come up with a project outline to include a funding request in the 2023 budget. And go through the regular budget process with that. Given all of the work that he has done, I would like that plan to be as detailed as we can make it so that we can answer questions at town meeting. I really feel that he has a good handle on what needs to be done, and he's been the one who has done the most. I would like to have an authorization to compensate him for that. He has not given me a price for coming up with that plan. But I would like the board's permission to spend a little money for the balance, the last quarter of this year, to come up with a written plan and a funding amount that we would ask for in the 2023 budget.
Right, we would discuss it in our budget discussions
but
and then
you would-
decide
you
whether we
would
wanted to
discuss
put
it.
it forward.
And you can cap that at whatever you want for this year. And I'll present it to Marvin. I'm thinking around 5,000 or so would be reasonable for him to put that information together. I think it's going to take a person outside of the rec people to drive this. So part of what I'm going to ask Marvin to do is come up with a a job description for the work that needs to be done for that position. And then we'll put the resources out there.
Do we have any idea what kind of a magnitude of cost we're talking about here?
For next year, you mean?
Well, next year and beyond, seems like a lot of work.
Well, he came up with a project
think-
plan at one time that was about, what, $13,000 or something?
No, I think Tyler presented that one time, and I think it was a lot more than that.
Okay.
I wanna say it was like
50.
close to. 100
Close to-
maybe.
Yeah,
It was a
If we were to
lot.
hire
Close to what?
50.
100, I thought.
Mhm.
So I could get that exact information. We have different recollections of that. But it's
Mhm.
very heavy, intensive, lots of work that has to be done. I mean, this is a big project to take on.
Mhm.
And the other thing that we can ask him to do, $100,000 isn't a reasonable thing for the 23 budget. We can break it down into phases once we have the outline. We don't have to do all of this in one year. There is a lot, and this has grown even beyond when we had that estimate
Yeah, and
from the very inception.
I think you're right. I think it is closer to 50. I think I remember.
Yeah, I think it was 50 but
Mhm.
even that amount, potentially we can phase.
Mhm.
I just think that we have a person who has already done a lot of the legwork for us. We need to just lay it out and then make a decision. Yes, this is a road we want to go down, or no, it's not. And I don't think that we will be making a good decision unless it gets laid out this way.
And we're also looking at having incorporated into this plan efforts to get sponsors or have
That's right.
these
There may
organizations.
be grant,
Grant.
right, we already know that there are opportunities.
Right,
at the
this is
state
part of
level. That's right,
effort.
under the tourism and the outdoor rec people at the state, if we have a written plan that we can
Right.
present, we can leverage money from there.
At one point, Subaru was ready to
And Subaru,
give, so I think there's other opportunities to get funding.
right.
Is WVAIA conspicuous by their absence in this list?
Yes,
yes,
they're it's hard for me to say that the organization is not in favor of us going down this path, but a number of people prominent in the organization are not in favor of us going down this path. They have a couple concerns having to do with the number of people it would bring into the valley potentially, and the current capability of our trail system to handle any extra traffic. And there's also concern about having a phone app taking away from the overall experience of hiking. You do it the other way, with a guidebook and a map. So I've asked several times for AIA to give us a letter of support, but they've been unwilling to do so.
I mean, this is all pretty new to me, so I'm gonna suggest we defer on this, because I'd like to look into it more. And this is. And maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not, but it's, to me, it's so totally new, and I'd like to do a little research before I vote to spend money on it.
Can someone in a concise manner, just to say what the trail initiative is?
But me, I can't hear what you said.
In a concise manner, can anybody in about 3 sentences stipulate what the trail initiative is?
I don't know if you've ever been on trails like this, and I have only, for the most part, heard about them. But there are trail systems out there that have almost historic markers or that kind of thing along the way. So you're out on the trail, but now there's something to read about what went on here, when, and that kind of thing. What Marvin is proposing is similar to that, except you don't need to build trail signs because it's all on your phone. Okay, so you build a system so maybe as you're going by a particular area that's listed and you're on this app, your phone dings and says there's something to read about right here. And it would tell you about, I don't know, the history, the wildlife.
People can't.
It's
that,
however
you
we
know,
populated the app,
However you populate the
history,
app.
natural resources, flora, fauna,
Yeah,
topography.
Internet connection.
Well, you could download it. before-
no,
You
you
can't-
can download it
before you
ahead
do.
of time.
Right.
So when I'm on the All Trails app, when I'm out hiking, okay, what I do is that I download the map of where I'm going. And then even if you don't have internet service, my phone will track GPS where I am on the trail. Okay, so it's similar to that you can download it ahead of time.
Yeah, that's one part of the project, and the part of the project that we're talking about here is precisely that that application and populating that application, but actually coming up with a, for lack of a better term, a business plan to do that going forward. But another part of the effort, Marvin's behest, I think, and I think it's a good idea, is to try to connect the disjointed trails that go around Waterville Valley. There are, what, 3 segments, if we can get 3 small segments, or 4, I forget now.
3.
3 rebuilt, one I think is decommissioned. Then we'd have a complete circuit around Waterville Valley. And the Waterville Valley would be in the middle of it, but you'd be able to visit all the peaks. And that's part of a larger project that this is part of.
And so the aversion by certain groups that don't want this would be why?
Well, what I was referring to is the Waterville Valley Athletic Improvement Association, our hiking club here. There is, and I don't mean to speak for them, but just my conversations with some of the representatives. The feeling that we don't manage our trails well enough now. The money isn't there now for managing trails. Why do we want to bring more people in? Why do we want to build more trails? Why do we want to have an app? It takes away from the experience. Why not? Why do we need to do these things at this time? I think I summarized that fairly.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they are doing a lot of the trail maintenance in
That's right.
town.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
WVAIA, you will see their name up on, as the people that are doing the trail maintenance, and I know they have a legitimate concern
They
about
do.
that. When they have their trail work days, not enough people come
Nope.
out. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, Al.
Slightly related, on the south end, the cross-country trails in winter, I think it's Charles and Becca, have put out signs explaining some of the topography, a little history, a little
Mhm.
bit about animals. They're just temporary,
Mhm.
during the winter, but cease to be it.
Yeah.
People stop, read them and like them.
They do. And I think the race center actually put
Right.
some out on the north end, on the connector trail.
Yeah.
They've done that in the past.
I
But
think,
Yeah, but we are talking about trails beyond the privately owned trails that are easements in town. We're talking about all of the trails
within Waterville Valley.
Waterville Valley, including the national forest.
Right.
That would be
Right.
covered by this.
If we're
So
successful with
it-
this,
the
we will
AIA
bring in a lot of people
The AIA is taking care of the trails that are on the private.
closer, right?
Right.
But if-
Take care of.
Well,
on
they
Forest
can
In
Service.
some,
Right.
some
And
of
some that are on
some
forest
of
land.
the.
But if this app gets built, you have all trails, you have outdoor
That's right.
active, who will very much advertise worldwide.
And that sounds wonderful, but more people who's gonna maintain them will become Waterville
Yeah.
Valley tax. people.
No,
That would
not
be
necessarily. Well, that's the question.
Because
That's
the
you
question.
get Subaru and other major corporations.
Right. Well, a lot of this
They'll make that
require, well, there is some
expect,
Forest Service input in this as well.
What's that?
I'm sorry?
Meals tax.
So what we were talking about here was to provide basically some seed money to have Marvin put together a proposal exactly how to go about doing this, so that we can consider it in our budget for next year. And then if we would agree to do that, it would be part of the budget request for next year that the town could vote on. But but Bob, you like more time to,
I'd like to look at.
sure, okay, fine,
I'm really uncomfortable with.
Okay.
The hiking organization in town being opposed to this. So I mean, I'd like to find out from them why.
yeah, please do. I mean, I don't wanna, I wanna make
And
sure
just-
I'm not mischaracterizing what their concern
It
is.
seems like we're working at contradictory purposes.
Yeah, well, two things. Number one, those cross-country signs, most of them, if not all, are on national forest trails. But wasn't it a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, the concept was what's going on, what's popular in the world, hiking as a growth thing. And one.
Oh, it's exploded.
Emphasis was put into promoting it for water.
That's right. This is-
Given that we have the
That's right.
facilities we have.
Yeah, back in 2018, 2019, it was part of our strategic plan at the time, and why we plussed up the rec department was to move in this direction.
And we have 3 hiking patches now that we didn't have back
Right.
then.
So this is a continuation of that effort. But now, I mean, we're at the point where we have to put some chips on the table in the terms of finances.
So, okay, we'll. I'll
right.
put it down as an old business item
Yeah,
for
next meeting.
next
For
meeting.
next meeting,
Mhm.
okay, fair enough. All right,
Thank you all for that.
no problem. Dana White's work extension request. So as I understand it, from the information you provided us, Mark, that Mr. White has asked to be able to ask us to grant, is it an exemption or an exception? I forget now in the noise
What are you gonna
ordinance.
Call it.
Well, it's in there. We have the line, so allow his crews to work on Columbus Day.
Yes,
And the issue is that because of delays in getting state approval for
alteration.
alteration of terrain, he's behind schedule.
Mhm.
And this is to put in various utility,
Water and sewer lines.
water sewer lines on the
Get paving completed.
and they need to get paving completed, and this is in the development, not the current development of 3 houses, but the
The back
development,
4.
the back 4 will be 12 units that they've just cleared the land, relatively recently cleared the land on. So he's asking us to consider allowing him to work on Columbus Day, since we in our ordinance, it is a federal holiday and is not allowed. And I think also there was a request that.
Well, I put in
Yeah.
a recommendation that because of the decreasing sunlight, work days are shorter. I think that having that area, all of this water and sewer infrastructure in the ground
Yeah.
before the winter and getting the paving done will actually help us have a better looking community over the winter. I would recommend extending by a half an hour the workday, so 7:30 instead of 8 o'clock. And if he needs to work on the Sundays,
As
between now and Columbus Day, let him do that. Whatever he needs to work to get the paving completed.
Is he gonna need the half-hour extension beyond Columbus Day?
Well, he may, because, right now, he's planning on paving November 4th. But he told me that is a stretch to get the amount of material
Mhm.
in the ground that he needs to get in the ground. So I think anything we can do makes it a better looking place over the winter. So I would recommend extending it. And I know that,
I'm gonna have all the other contractors
Well-
come in for the same request.
well, I think you're granting this based on his not getting the AOT for 5 months. He was held up by DES for 5 months. So the exception for him is because of that holdup. That's the reason. That's why he's requesting the Columbus Day.
Any discussion?
Well, I'm still concerned that all the other contractors are gonna come in with the same request. I mean, they'll all have some excuse why they get held up. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I think we're gonna, if we approve this, we're gonna get. What do you think about the public?
Well,
John, that
we're-
came to a,
there, well. It also helps shorten the amount of time that the contractor is on the site. I know that it's an inconvenience, but we've got a lot more construction going on in town than has ever happened since I've been here. And Bob, maybe, I'm not sure about how long about the construction since you've been here, but in the last 20 years, this is the most construction we've had. And I think the quicker we get through it, get them out of town, get the contractors out of town.
Do you
That's what
know
I'm
if the
trying to
other
do.
contractors are planning on digging holes this fall?
Well, the Golden Heights, folks,
They're
are
all
they
done.
done? Okay, so Golden Heights is finished.
So down in the area where Dana is working, no more holes this winter.
No,
Except
he
for
is
putting
the
in
site, he is the site contractor at Green Peak.
Okay, so
So
is he
he's the guy.
gonna be digging the holes for the Green Peak buildings? as
I
well?
don't,
Yes,
Yes.
the contract, yes.
But I mean, is he gonna be doing that this fall, or is this
Putting in
request
the foundation.
just to put in the infrastructure?
Utilities.
Just to get it all done.
it's to get it done.
And
Yeah.
just as a side note, it may or may not have any bearing, but a lot of it has to do with town-owned infrastructure.
Right, well, that's why I was asking the question, because if he was talking about town-owned infrastructure, I think we could make an argument that says
Mhm.
that's why it makes sense to do this exception to the noise ordinance, because overall it's something good for the town. But if what he's talking about is doing all of that plus additional holes for additional buildings, then you start to get into, the other contractors coming to you and saying, well, what about us?
Well, to be fair though, Margaret, he has to put all of the foundations in order to complete all the infrastructure work for the town.
I got you. Okay,
He's got to
well,
run the
that
sewer
answers that
lines and the
question.
water lines to the foundation. So
Mhm.
yes, the holes being dug for the foundations are part of this work.
Okay,
so if we approve this, I mean, all the other the carpenters that are on that site and the cement trucks that'll come in to pour the foundation, will they all be coming at 7:30 as well?
We can tell them not to. If you don't want to exempt them, but you are okay with the digging piece of it. We can structure this however you want us to do it.
Or we can just forget about the 7:30.
Or we
and
can
just
forget
do-
about 7:30 and
just
just do
Columbus
Columbus Day
Day.
and let him take his chances getting it done by November 4th. I'm okay with
So
that.
is there a Sunday thing? Or
Nope, that was my recommendation just to
I'm
get
okay,
this
I'm
over.
okay with saying Columbus Day is fine, but
Okay.
Okay.
Nope.
Do I have a
that's-
motion to approve an exemption or exception to the noise ordinance for Dana White to,
what do you guys think about 7:30?
I'm fine with just Columbus Day. He can always come back
Yeah.
and say, I still need more time.
yeah,
Columbus Day, just what, 2 weeks?
yeah,
2 weeks
Columbus
out?
Day will happen before your next meeting, and
Yeah.
if he's still in trouble, he can come
Yeah.
in. So
Yeah.
you can communicate that to him, Jim.
okay.
I mean, Dana White's a great guy. I like him a lot.
He is.
So,
And he's been
Done a
very
lot
good
of
as
good
far
work
as,
in
as
this.
far as maintaining
He's,
adherence to,
that's,
I can't think honestly,
right.
anytime that I can recall we've ever got a complaint
Mhm.
from him.
he's a good guy.
He follows the rules very well.
okay, so Columbus Day is a go.
I will
Right.
make a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Jim, you can
Yeah.
continue to communicate with him, please. All right,
Old business, North End Public Restroom. So this is just to clarify, I think, a discussion we had, what was it now? 2 select board meetings ago, or our last regular select board meeting, it may have been, about the town the town actually, budgeting for, public restrooms in the north end of the town. And we had some discussion about that, and I went back and listened to the tape after being informed by colleagues here that it may have come off the discussion that the town actually that we were considering this as something that we were favorably disposed toward, when in fact, at least in my mind, it was always conditional in the sense of were we to put something in that part of town, what would it be like? And I think all we agreed to at that meeting was to continue with the porta potties for a next year. Does that sound right to you guys? So I just wanted to clarify that point. The larger issue about a more permanent solution to public restrooms in the north end still needs to be decided. There are a couple arguments out there about this is business oriented, or there is also an argument out there that there is a public benefit to this as well with regard to the people who use the businesses are mostly town residents, and they're among the strongest supporters of public restrooms in that area, as well as hikers and bikers and so forth. So I think that clarified it. I hope.
Okay.
I'll find out, or we will find out, right?
Mhm.
Let's see, did you want to go to the Water River Crossing Treatment Project?
Yep. We had a telephone conversation project update with the contractor and the engineers this morning, where we have a solution to the connection of well 2 to the treatment building. Cost estimate on it right now for the change order that we discussed is, what's the number on there? Dylan, 6,000.
$6,554.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's,
Well, but there's another
Uh-oh.
piece, that is for the contractor to do the pipe work.
right,
The actual building of the enclosure over that pipe work, we still need to get a number from, and we're gonna use the same contractor it's Stehecki, who's doing the work on the building itself. So we'll just extend his contract.
Does that mean it's gonna have a roof over it?
So what it will be is the well building 2 will have a little bump out, like a doghouse.
because we're always going to
attached
keep that building.
Huh?
We were always going to
We
keep
were
that.
always gonna
We're
keep
just going to
well
refit
building
it
2.
inside
We're gonna
or
renovate
whatever it was.
the building. Okay,
Mhm.
so now the pipe will come out through the wall from the wellhead through the wall of the building and then go down into the ground and run to the treatment building.
Okay.
So where that elbow is and the pipe down into the ground, there'll be a structure around that.
Okay.
It'll be insulated.
It'll be
and
insulated.
open to the inside.
Yeah, so it'll be heated as part
Like
of
putting a
that.
closet in an outside wall and not putting doors on.
And how big is that pipe? Is that an
The
8?
pipe's a 6 inch.
6 inch? Mhm.
And why do we have to do that?
Because our other alternatives, there is a problem connecting to the existing infrastructure that exists. And there isn't any room to correct that problem in the ground because of a certain large, I think it's the mother of all boulders.
Oh, okay. I remember that, okay.
A boulder here. And so as far as contingency is concerned, this is
It's within the
within the
contingency.
contingency. Okay. All right.
Anything else, Dylan, that we need to,
No, I think we're just waiting to see an actual sketch as well.
right,
From the engineers, so that way we have some detail on what this will look like when it's all said and done.
we know what the concept is, we don't have the actual drawing of what it will.
Okay.
Because we'll have to give the contractor something to build it to,
Mhm.
just so that way it will match an as-built, if you will.
Okay. New treatment plant project?
the sludge holding lagoon, anything more from RMI?
Where should I start?
Go ahead.
So
It's all sludge to us.
Yeah.
it's for me too. so,
And it all flows downhill
And it does.
if given the chance.
So because of the wastewater treatment facility project, the upgrade, regardless of anything to do with the transfer station, going back even 7 months. The goal was to decommission the drying bed.
Right,
Because we had to move the transfer station anyhow.
right.
Because of construction. Because of that, you don't have a place to dry our sludge. So we've been trying to work out a method to dispose of it, because our new permit now, that was effective April 1 of this year through EPA, we have to dispose of it annually now. Whereas in the past, we didn't actually have any compliance that they could hold on to it for years. And just, add to the drying bed and dry it. And of course, the more water you have, the more expensive it is to get rid of it, because it's all volume.
Right.
The more water.
We talked about trucking it out, weren't we?
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's a couple vendors that we've been working with, waiting to hear back some cost estimates. I should hear something back from at least one of them by Monday. And that way we can get some ballpark ideas, but this is gonna be something that we have to do every year. And, so this is, gonna be a once a year thing for the next 5 years anyway. So
And unfortunately, the indicators are not,
it's not gonna be cheap.
it's not gonna be cheap.
I don't have any exact dollar figures for you right now, but last year we hauled our dry sludge, and that was roughly $20,000 to get rid of it. I would estimate at least 3 times that this year, because probably 4 times that, because you have to remember that we have to dispose of what was on the drying bed from last year. This year we have to have a closure plan for the drying bed. We have to dispose of everything out of there, so that way the state says you can build here, put the transfer station here, so on and so forth. That's just, unfortunately, that's part of the again, closure plan, or closing down anything that they're doing. And then we have to dispose of everything that's actually in the sludge holding ponds themselves. So again, I don't have a dollar figure for you right now, because I haven't got anything back from the companies, and they haven't given me anything for an all-in price.
So even though the transfer station is not gonna move till next year, we still have to, because of the new permit, we have to get rid of the sludge.
Right.
Well, it's beyond that, Bob. We've got to clear what's on the bed right now. Plus, we have to get rid of what's in the pond right now,
Mhm.
which we would have wasted onto the sludge
Right.
drying bed this fall.
Correct.
So we can't do that. So that's why we're faced with moving a lot of water that we wouldn't have had to normally.
So this is more complicated than pumping out your septic tank.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it sure is.
There isn't a thing outside Hannaford for sludge.
I wish there was. I wish there was.
But just keep in mind that the past, when we've had RMI is the company that we've used, they've been excellent. They've always been the most cost-effective option. They've always removed our sludge, and it's been dry to about 98%, which is unheard of. I mean, it's basically dirt. It looks like pelletized dirt at that point. This process that we're going to have to do, we'll be lucky if we get anything higher than 20 to 30% solids. So
Paying for a lot of water.
A lot of water.
So the more water weight there is, the more expensive it is to get rid of it, because the volume doesn't reduce, and that's really all it is volume reduction when we talk about squeezing water out. So
Okay. And the funding for this,
that's going to be project.
It's
cost.
project
part of the
costs
project
because
costs of
the moving. of the
under
transfer
the old,
station.
keeping the old
Mhm.
plan
Mhm.
up and running.
Yeah.
Okay. Transfer station project?
Really, we're waiting for the plan from the engineer. The wetlands permit has been submitted to DES.
Mhm.
I'll be taking that, the Conservation Commission, I think, is next week. So I'll be taking that wetlands permit to the Conservation Commission next week. It's helpful if the Conservation Commission issues a letter that they're okay with the plan,
Mhm.
that tends to expedite the DES review process, so.
All right.
What have we heard about future waste disposal, solid waste disposal?
I have sent another email and left another voicemail. I was giving it until tomorrow morning, and I will call the corporate office and see if I can get in touch, because it's the third time I've reached out to this guy.
This brings
And
us to
he
the
has told
upcoming
me-
Pemmy Baker
Right.
Solid Waste District meeting.
Jim sent me an email after I sent you the packet that's been canceled.
That has been canceled.
Oh, okay.
This, will be rescheduled,
The contract, or the whole meeting?
the whole meeting.
Okay, right.
Do you have any indication of what the contract is? Do you have a copy of the
Yes, I
contract?
gave it to you.
Okay, I don't,
But
Remember that.
if not, I may have been remiss and not
Okay.
passed it along.
okay. So we'll provide you with an
Right.
electronic copy of
Yeah.
what Waste Management is going to be providing Casellas, what they're gonna be
Right.
providing to the Pemmy Baker Solid Waste District.
But in answer to
So you can
Margaret's
see.
question, we still haven't heard anything
We still
from
have not heard
Wind-
anybody from.
Wind Waste to explore that option
No.
instead of going with
And,
Casella.
you know, the NRRA bus tour to Concord and all that. They must have capacity, because that was for operators to see what the facility was.
Basically what that is for operators, and it's part of, it can be part of your operator training.
Oh, okay. The continuing
So you get
education.
TCHs, or it's, because for every license that all of us have, we have to get so many contact hours in order to renew our licenses, no matter what it is in the state.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that they have
Doesn't
capacity.
necessarily mean it's an opportunity for TCHs and.
Okay. But that trip that we were thinking we could get the Conservation Commission and Municipal Solid Waste folks to go on, it's not.
It's not for
a
them.
licensed
Right.
operator
Okay,
for the volunteers.
anything else under old business?
Nope.
Covered it. All right, board concerns and directives. So I think here we should discuss briefly the board's conclusion that the best way forward to deal with the land purchase of a piece of land which we need for our wastewater treatment plant project, specifically map 107 lot 3. It's village commercial, 2.13 acres. We've had discussions over several months with the owners of that property, and we've been unable to come to an agreed sales price. So I think I would entertain a motion to move toward acquiring this property via eminent domain.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay, I think that's all for that particular item and board concerns and
Then-
directives for the record. All right, correspondence?
I did not get, I had the telephone conversation yesterday with Snowsbrook. They did not get the sign permit. They asked for additional time, so it'll be at the next meeting. They said there was no particular rush on that. And then I received the attached letter from Jenny Lucas and just wanted the board's
Mhm.
guidance on that and what your thoughts were on dealing with that. I already go to the Conservation Commission. Dylan has been going to update them on the water project and the wastewater project.
We
You know-
just propose to use best efforts. To
Sure.
keep
good
them,
faith efforts, good
keep
faith
them
efforts.
as involved if we think there's a need for.
I mean, our meetings are open. We publish we could give them a heads up if there's a topic coming And an
Well, I
upcoming,
think water and wastewater are always on your agenda.
oh, so they have a
So-
representative here
They
and
don't
they
have a
have a
representative.
planning board representative who goes to the. I mean,
Planning
they have a planning board member who's ex officio to the Conservation Commission
Right,
that handles all the planning board issues that come up with regard to natural resources and water issues.
Yeah.
So, yeah, perhaps just a best effort or better effort to make sure they're aware that an issue that might be of interest to them is in the upcoming agenda, although, as you said, just about every meeting we have involves, we get updates all the time on water and wastewater every meeting, so
right.
perhaps it's just they just take the opportunity to come to our regular select board meetings.
Okay. All
Is
right, I'll email Eric and Jenny back and let them
Yeah.
know that.
They're very welcome.
Okay,
All right, so I see nothing else on the agenda other than non-public session. Do I have a motion to move to non-public?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?